Welcome to the official Tradecraft Dreams and Money Motivation CEO YouTube channel. It's me, your boy Big Tradecraft. Push up with a street seat. Push up with a street seat. So let me take my time with this. This is gonna be one of the best pieces of work I ever put together as far as talking on the streets, talking about legacy, talking about culture. This is gonna be one of the best videos I've ever put out. Shout out to DJ Vladtv. Shout out to No Jumper, Adam 22. Shout out to people. Shout out to is another one. They used to have these gang channels. I don't see these gang channels as much. It was one in Texas and there was one in like two in LA or two in California, period. So this was inspired. This is, first of all, I want to say this is Black History Month. So what the street said, push up. It's Black History Month. I'm Big Tradecraft. I represent Memphis, Tennessee, and shout out to Little Rock, Arkansas. It's one of my second homes. I frequent Little Rock, Arkansas yearly, monthly, weekly. Been going there for forever. Today I want to talk about the evolution of gangs outside of LA, outside of California. The evolution of gangs outside Chicago. I'm going to start off by saying, when it comes to black gangs, right? Gang culture outside of Chicago, outside of California, Memphis, Tennessee would be probably number 3 when it comes to gangs and gang banging. Memphis would be number 3. Or we'll say Little Rock, Arkansas. You know, I love Little Rock. We'll say Little Rock, Arkansas was number 3 or 4. I'd say like New York would be in the top 5. Certain areas in Alabama, like Mobile, Birmingham, Montgomery. We gotta throw Fort Worth, Texas in there. We got to throw Fort Worth and Dallas in there, heavily gang culture. We got to throw Shreveport, Louisiana in there, heavily gang culture. So, me, I'm not representing no gangs, period. You know what I'm talking about? I ain't representing no gangs, but shout out to all the gangs, shout out to all the members, the former members, or whatever, however you want to see it. So we're going to start out by saying this is the evolution of gangs outside of Chicago, outside of Los Angeles, California, and how they spread like wildfire. I'm talking about the Crips and the Bloods past California. We talking about the GDs and Vicelords past Chicago. And why is it an issue when black people unite, even amongst black people? But there is no issue amongst the Italian mob operating in all five boroughs of New York. We talking about operating in New Jersey. We talking about operating in Connecticut, Boston, Philadelphia, New Orleans, Florida, Cuba, Los Angeles, Chicago, Las Vegas, Boston, Cleveland, Youngstown, Ohio, Italy, and beyond. Why there's no issue with the Russian mob being a global thing? Why there's no problem with the Chinese triad, or however you pronounce it, the Japanese triad, operating global? There's been no speculation on why those are out of state. They're out of city, out of state, out of region, and they're global. But when it comes to the black gangs, the Bloods, the Crips, the GDs, the Vicelords, I'm going to say the People Nation, I'm going to say the Folk Nation, because if you know, like I know, it can get difficult sometimes. It's like I say something similar like with Bloods and Perus, which we know that the Peru is in the blood family. You know what I'm talking about? But it can be little conversation about that or whatever. And it could be the same could be said when you talk about Vicelords, because people are under the 5, and it can get tricky because the out of state, certain cities, certain states, they look at things a different way. They break down the fractions of who under this, who under that, but we ain't gonna get into that. What I want to get into is why there's no conversation about law enforcement being in all cities, all states, all regions, all countries. The FBI is national. The CIA is national. The ATF is national. The DEA is national. There's a military in every country. And in a lot of countries, we got the United States military there. There's a police force in every city, every state. We talking about all over the country is a police department. It's no conversation about, well, this is just this thing or that thing. But when it comes to this blood and this cripping and this folk nation and this people nation, it's always question marks about stuff. So I want to take people back. But I'm going to take you slow, because it's a sheriff department, it's a state trooper, state police, it's constables, and all other type of law enforcement agencies everywhere. No one sees a problem with it. But when it comes to California, LA to be exact, gangs, is always a big question mark. How did it spread across the United States? How did it spread outside the United States? How did it leave LA? Why is it in other countries? But the same could be said for the Chicago gangs with the GDs and the Vicelords, especially the GDs. GDs is big, 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 big. Like I said, with the and I'm gonna be honest, it's a bigger question mark with the LA gangs than the Chicago gangs, and that's kind of crazy. But let's get to this first. With the KKK, why haven't we ever heard of a discrepancy about where did it start? Why did it spread from Tennessee to Mississippi to Indiana, or the headquarters being in North Carolina? Notice that it's understood where it started, where the headquarters was, where is it now, and even go farther than it. But why isn't it a issue far as the Colombian cartels being everywhere? Why isn't a issue with the Mexican cartels being everywhere? Far as what, when, and where. The only issue is money and power when it comes to the Colombian cartel, the Mexican cartel, these Italian mobs, these Russian mobs. The only question is money and power. FBI, DEA, CIA, ATF, the same thing, money and power. But they all could be considered a gang. And let's even go straight to the Mexicans in the United States. It's not a big thing about MS-13 or SIR-13, SUR, Sereno 13, or whatever you call it, being in every city, every state. But when it comes to the black people, it's an issue. I ain't rocking with it, period. I ain't rocking with it. Now back to black people, the black gangs at hand with organizations. First, the civil rights movement wasn't just a southern issue, but it was a national issue. And what black people did and decent white folks did was came together and fought. And from that, the black Muslims, aka the FOI, or it's something else, but Fruit of Islam was born around this civil rights movement. The black Muslims is what they call them. They got strong. And they was building mosques and having mosques in Chicago, New Jersey, California, New York, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and across the United States. Then you had the I want to say it was like the Nubian nation or something, the nuwaps or something. I don't nuwapians or something with Dr Malachi Z York, who's locked up right now in ADX, right? Built his own people, had his own people together, built his own country. I believe he's from New York. Then they had bought land and had their own, tried to make their own country in, I don't know, somewhere, maybe upstate New York, upstate New Jersey. I'm not 100% sure. Then they moved to Atlanta, and they had this big thing outside of Atlanta in Georgia before he met his untimely prison sentence. But from what he's mentioned several times by Nas, by Method Man, all kind of other people, Prodigy of Mobb Deep, right? He brought people together, big organization. You can look it up. His charges are heinous. I'm not saying he did it, he didn't do it, but the guy was a brilliant leader, brilliant organizer. The nuwapians, his group was extremely organized and successful. And there was no talk about it. It is no talk about it. And even with the Vicelords, shout out to Minister Rico, he talks on the original OGs about how the Vicelords used to protect Dr. King. They used to protect Malcolm X. When they came to Chicago, they was with those righteous brothers, the Vicelords. And if you know anything about Memphis, Memphis is a big gang city. It's plenty of Vicelords, GDs, Bloods, Crips, and we talking all fractions of the people nation is a lot of fractions of the folk nation. So when you talk about a lot of stuff about organization, it gets out of hand because there's a lot of knowledge with all this stuff, from the Crips coming together in California, forming after the Black Panthers, the Bloods forming after that. But everybody always had these groups and they neighborhoods, they cliques. But it's an issue when the black people do it. And about where you from, where it started, people knew that wasn't important. You know what I'm talking about? Like, where you from? That wasn't important. The message was important. Let's talk about the Black Panther Party, which grew out of the civil rights movement, which was intelligent, smart, calculated, amazing organizers. Their reach spread from east to west in cities including Oakland, LA, Chicago, Baltimore, and other major cities. See, no one thing I learned is is when black people are teaching knowledge instead of destruction, they organizing is a big difference from when it transferred and they just made it all this gang stuff is just bad. But at first, all this where you from, it didn't matter. All this ignorance didn't matter because these people were teaching knowledge. Shout out to the 5%ers in New York as well, which later converted to Bloods, to the Blood Gang in '93. And it transported all over the East Coast from the prisons. A lot of stuff transferred from prisons. The FOI, the Black Muslims, it grew stronger in prison. Out when this had always been. What's going on in prison is going on in the streets. What's going on in the streets is going on in prison. It always been like that. It's just, I don't know, man. It'd be crazy. But anything, knowledge and unity go hand in hand. Violence, anger, and destruction go hand in hand. So from me talking about legal organizations, illegal organizations, justice organizations, one thing they all had in common is traveling. It's growing, it's spreading, expanding. So why do people get upset at Bloods and Crips expanding, including black people, including LA natives, when that's what groups do? They expand, they grow, they evolve, they bring people together for better or for worse. So if you know me, you know I played football. I played a lot of sports, but mostly football. I was on the swim team, played basketball, did all that, but mostly football. So when it comes to football, what does it do? Bring people together. Baseball, basketball, volleyball, tennis, it brings people together. It does the exact same thing, bring people together. That's what organizations, that's what groups, that's what gangs do, for better or worse. So when you think of the South, most people are gonna think of slavery. They're gonna think of Jim Crow laws. Some think of oppression. And with that oppression, where did people move? LA, California, Los Angeles, California, Chicago, Illinois. That's where people left from the South and went. Okay. And with that oppression and such, cause where the Crips and the Bloods, where do you think they were from? And back then, family and community were important, and people kept in touch, especially blacks. Blacks were what the Mexicans are in the United States today. The Mexicans, they moved to the United States, right, for a better life, and they bring their family, they bring people from their neighborhood or their city, their town. What black people were are what Mexicans are now. This person get to California, they bring their family, they bring many family members, many people from their community, neighborhood, little town, little cities they can. Okay. You get to California, you get to Chicago, help your family. You bring people to the town, to Cali, right? And some of the founding fathers and members of these original blood sets, Crip sets, People Nation sets, Folk Nation sets, where do you think their roots are from? This is in response to people who think we ignorant, because we ain't. We ain't ignorant and we ain't going for it. Some of the founding fathers of the blood sets are from where? Arkansas. I'm not going to tell you everything. Go look it up. Some of the founding fathers from the Crip sets are from where? Louisiana. Go look it up. Okay, where's Jeff Fort? One of the, I ain't gotta say, he in ADX right now, right? I just told you somebody else was in ADX, right? Right? So check it. Black P Stones, right? L. Rookins, People Nation, the birth of Jeff Fort, him and his crew. Guess where he's from? I want to say, how you say it? Aberdeen or some. Aberdeen is in Mississippi though. So if he from Aberdeen, Mississippi, Larry Hoover or the GDs, where he from originally, Jackson, Mississippi. Not just told you where some of these prominent members' roots are from. Back then, family was taken way more serious. And some of these people their roots was from Alabama. Back then, you and your cousins, you and people from the town, y'all kept in touch. Some people moved back to Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Georgia. Some people go visit their cousins out there. So while they building all this stuff, right, all these different gangs, these different cliques, people are in the mix. It's been even stories about this and that gang start in Memphis. Did it start in Mississippi? And then it translate up there, and then it blew up there. It talks about stuff like this, right? So these people visit, they conversing with each other. Then one day, dopes take over the whole nation. And within most cities, they had family and homeboys tied to LA street culture because their roots came from somewhere else. And they already had beef in their own hoods. This is before. And the drug trade, now this beef they got, when the drugs come, guess what else come? The guns. Yeah, the Uzis, the Mac 11s come with the dope. With the dope trade. Now gangs are spreading through the jail cells, right? Dudes from Cali are getting locked up. Them and their cousins, them and their homeboys, them and they got families going from all over. They linking up. People going to jail. It's getting serious, right? Everybody got smoke all through the United States. People having smoke. And I'm gonna say something else. When it comes to New York, what do you think a lot of people from New York from? Okay, North Carolina, right? North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama. Jadakiss daddy from Memphis. I know that to be a fact, right? So when people going through the jail system, right? What do black people do by nature? Black people unify by nature. So what you think they're gonna do in the streets? They're gonna unify. Black people unify by nature. What you think they're gonna do in jail? Unify. Okay. So by the 80s and 90s, Crips and Bloods are everywhere. Now let's take it to the Chicago gang, GD and People Nation like Vicelords, MCs, Black P Stones. They grew up with laws and bylaws. This is before the Bloods and Crips, due to Jeff Fort being born in Aberdeen, Mississippi. Larry Hoover being born in Jackson, Mississippi. Okay. So the Folk Nation and the People Nation. Okay, you got, this is I-55. It goes straight up, straight down. You get Chicago. You go down 7, 8 hours, you got Memphis. Boom. Then you go farther down, you can go to Aberdeen, you can go to Jackson, Mississippi, right? So you up and down this stretch. Like I just told you, some people, it's been discrepancies of, did this gang actually start, or these organizations, did some of them start in Memphis, did some of them start in Mississippi, but did they blow up in Chicago because people are taking, it was already gangs in Memphis, it was already gangs in Mississippi prior to a lot of black people even getting to Chicago. But we'll say that for another day. So up and down I-55, you get all this going on. Jeff Fort kept a tight notch. People were tight with family. So there's a big heavy thing with the People Nation being in Memphis and being in Mississippi. We talking about Black P Stones, every branch of Vicelord, MCs, whatever you can think of, and GDs are very, very big. So this culture is influencing up and down I-55 and worldwide, include my town, Memphis. So this is going from Chicago to Mississippi. And almost everyone in Chicago has family in Memphis and in Mississippi, and they celebrate their family reunions in Memphis or close to Memphis. This has been going on 70, 80 plus years. That's how long this been going on. So, of course, people come to Memphis with the knowledge and plus the influence in prisons across all states. People organize, but one thing that's different that you don't hear, Chicago has never been upset about the gangs migrating from Chicago. That's more what you hear in California. You don't hear that from the Chicago. You don't really hear that with Chicago, but you hear it more so with California. And like I said, only argument they ever had was where did they really originate it, and too many people don't even have it. But prior to blowing up, because Mississippi, like Chicago and New York and Memphis, all had a lot of independent gangs, so it was gonna be gangs regardless. Now, me being from Memphis and me living in Little Rock, Arkansas, I started visiting Little Rock, Arkansas when I was 9 years old. That's when I started to build a relationship with my father. And I seen dude be with Master P Big Court. He said something that was a lie too. He said that Little Rock, Arkansas ain't like Kansas City. Kansas City got original sets. That's a lie. Little Rock, Arkansas has original sets. Now, when it comes to Memphis, I love Memphis. Memphis doesn't have original sets, but Memphis represents sets, but they represent their neighborhood as well. But Little Rock, Arkansas does have original sets, just like Houston, Texas has some original sets, and Kansas City has original sets. But to break it down, that's how sets got everywhere. And so shout out to any group, any organization that's black that brought people together, whether good or bad. But that's what black people do, they unify. So when I see white dudes constantly trying to ask this question about why are there Bloods and Crips, why people represent somebody else's street or whatever they want to say, black people unify anyway. And half of these leaders, or the person next to the leaders, has roots to majority of other states, especially southern states, especially New York. Why? Because most of the black people came from down south anyway. Anyways, your boy B. Chair Crowd. Number love and respect from Memphis. Love and respect to Chicago. Love and respect to California, LA to be exact. Much love to Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, New York City for sure. Even though I'm not part of a gang or gang banging culture, I respect it because me being from my neighborhood, I was this far away from being part of a gang, but I have been part of organizations and cliques. Man, anyway, welcome to the channel. If you new, this is the official Trail Crowd Dreams and Money Motivation CEO YouTube channel. This is home where the Memphis OG speaks on. Get your facts together before you talk. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. 1.